Hello firearms friends, wonderful video for you today. I'm very excited. We have a host of unicorn sniper rifles, specifically unicorn German sniper rifles. They're all gonna be in our May 8th through 10th Premier Firearms auction. If you like precision, if you like innovative design, buckle up. It's gonna be a show. We're gonna have to actually show them one at a time on the table to put them all three on here. There's going to be three in total. It got a bit crowded. So one by one, we're gonna go through these. Let's start with the elephant in the room, a Walther WA 2000. Cool factor through the roof. Rock Island Auction Company's had the pleasure to sell one other Walther 2000, December 2020, just short of $98,000, surpassed its high estimates, did absolutely fantastic. When we sold that one, we did do a video on the full history. So if you want the full deep dive, go check out that video. For this video, we'll go through the cliff notes though, right? Everybody kind of cites the beginnings of the WA 2000 after the 1972 Munich massacre, where West Germany realizes, hey, we've really got to upgrade our training, our tactics, and our equipment. And in the aftermath of that, you see things like the GSG-9, the Grenzschutzgruppe 9. You see, later that year, it's like 72, the HKPSG-1. The Precision Schützengewehr is adopted as well. But there's a lot of weapons designs that are submitted, and some are adopted, and some fall by the wayside. By 1982, you have Walther with just this line in the sand, this watershed moment of the WA 2000, absolutely purpose-built from the ground up. It's a watershed in design, in precision, in thought process, just everything about it. Let's go through it. Let's start with it's a semi-automatic bullpup design, charging handle on this side. Let's get a listen to that. Great noise. Not many people get to hear that noise. I hope you enjoyed. When you are on the gun, it is very different if you're not accustomed to bullpup designs to hear that action moving immediately next to your ear. So again, semi-automatic, which is already a departure from the sniper rifles that are being used at the time, right? M1903s in America that we would think of, M1903 A4s, very different. Chambered in 308. Chambered in 300 Win Mag. I believe most were chambered in 300 Win Mag. There's first and second model. The first models were also chambered in 7.5 Swiss, which is a round I really enjoy, and that would have been cool. Second models, such as this one, did not see the Swiss designation, just 300 Win Mag and 308. So semi-automatic bullpup, keep getting distracted. Let's talk about this giant aluminum chassis that the gun is built around, right? You have this barreled action just locked into this rectangular aluminum chassis. The whole idea was just rigidity. And there's a joke in there, right? About Germans and strictness and rigidity. And here it is manifest in the Walther WA 2000. But that was the idea. We're not a free floating barrel. We are clamped back and up here at the front. Again, designed to reduce any movement of the barrel, but also helps to mitigate felt recoil to the shooter. You're reducing torque or any sort of torsional movement on that, again, because this frame is so stiff and rigid. After that, you have sort of a lot of features that you come to know and love from sniper rifles or any rifles for that matter. Birdcage flash hider up here. Again, that's a second model feature. The first models did have sort of a solid, sort of big cylindrical flash hider on there. We also have a solid barrel as opposed to a fluted barrel, which was on the first model. So two easy ways to identify a second model WA 2000 are in the first, 8 inches of it. Bipod up top, very handy to use. Charging handle left-hand side, ambidextrous safety. It's about the only thing that's ambidextrous on the whole gun, of course, because you have your ejection port over here and you have your bolt release over here as well. Scope is designed to be removable and still hold perfect zero. Probably a feature that most sharpshooters would find pretty important. You have this very textured wood down here. You can see where it stops along the grip, and the grip is I mean, we should expect nothing less from Walther. You know, they've been making target pistols for the Olympics and beyond for over 50 years at this point. So it feels great. We have a big pad on the bottom of that, nice thumb hole, flat bottoms to be positioned just as is. Of course, we have an adjustable butt pad which will slide up and down. Very comfortable gun to get behind. And it just feels natural. This one's topped with Zeiss glass, West German Zeiss glass, appropriately, in a 2.5 by 10 by 52 scope. Now, all this innovation, all this appearance, this modern appearance and precision comes at a price. In fact, it comes at a very hefty price. In 1982, when they started production, a base model was around $9,000. Today, you know, depending on what inflation calculator you're using, that's between $30,000 and $35,000. So pretty expensive. Therefore, it was not adopted by the GSG-9. There were a couple West German police outfits that did purchase some, but ultimately it was not widely adopted. And of course, it's meant for more police groups than military. This wasn't designed with a military purpose in mind. So when it didn't get those contracts, it pretty much sounds the death knell. Production stops after 6 years. With only 176 made, but that's a number that's kind of in flux recently with recent research. Even when we did our video 6 years ago, that was a prevailing number. You know, 176 of these are ever made. Well, new research suggests that maybe as few as 72 were ever made. You know, less than half of the existing numbers. So they were rare unicorns before. Now they're even more so. Only 15 of which are said to have been imported in the United States, 8 of which were chambered in 308, as this one here. So this one's 308. Our previous one was 308. We've handled a quarter of the 308 Winchester chambered WA 2000s that are in the United States. Most of us are familiar with the WA 2000 from James Bond films. Of course, you have The Living Daylights. Timothy Dalton famously uses one that has a little bit of Hollywood magic in it, and I believe that version is housed at the Royal Armories. And of course, from any number of video games, notably, of course, the Call of Duty series. So its appearance has just made it kind of an icon. And of course, you want to use it in stylized films like James Bond when it was brand new and just so different from anything else. What better for a stylish British spy? It's just a monument to German precision, German innovation, rarity, and like we said before, a cool factor that's through the roof. Let's take a look at our second German sniper rifle. If you think that this German bullpup sniper rifle with a super modern appearance looks a lot like our last one, you're 100% correct. That's because this is the Keppeler Fritz KS II. This is designed by Dieter Keppeler in the late 80s, early 90s, and no surprise here, Keppeler had previously worked at Walther, spent a good deal of time there, I believe from the 50s, in their tool room and of course designing guns, and was of course involved in the Walther WA 2000 project. So he's working at Walther. In '82, he begins making rifles on his own, precision, competition rifles. He starts to get pretty good at it. He's getting his guns used by even Olympians. His guns are winning championships. By '87, his guns are doing so well, he breaks off from Walther. He does his own shop full time. 5 years after that is when he buys the business of his friend Walther Fritz. Fritz had passed in '92. He buys it shortly thereafter. Fritz had a also very respected business in Germany for hunting rifles. And so now when Keppeler buys that, he renames it Keppeler Fritz. There's a couple other reorganizations at that point too. But between when he buys it in 1992, this particular rifle was produced in 1994. So you know things were already in development prior to that. Now we talked about it has some similarities to the WA 2000, and we can just talk about those right now. It's a bullpup. That is very similar. The chamberings are also very similar. Most of them are in 308. This one is in 300 Win Mag. There's also a few that are in 338 Lapua. So big, long distance, heavy hitting cartridges. And of course we have the appearance. Right now, it's not this rectangular aluminum chassis, but there are, large black tubes kind of running forward and back, and it's just aluminum chassis that everything is just sort of, essentially a barreled action is mounted and locked inside of there. But let's talk about the differences between this and in the Walther WA 2000. The KS II, as maybe you can see, is bolt action with a very short throw and a very smooth bolt. Gives you high hopes for the rest of the gun when you feel quality like that. I mean, we can just go stem to stern here. Most notably though, free floating barrel. Like, no longer are we locked into the chassis. This is an absolutely free floating barrel. There's a notable gap here between this frame and the barrel. So we start to see a few more touches of modernity than we do on the Walther 2000, which is funny because it's viewed as such a futuristic gun. On top here, we have an offset scope. Recall the Walther was right in line with the barrel. This is mounted offset to the left, and we do have a Schmidt & Bender 3x12 magnification. So capable of taking care of a 300 Win Mag distance. I'm gonna flip this around because one of the coolest parts you almost have to see to believe, and that is the magazine. Now, on the bottom of the Walther is where that magazine is, with a very, European heel release, but it's very flush, very polished, hidden, one might even say. On the KS II, side mounted and at an angle with a single stack magazine that I'm guess holding 3 rounds of that 300 Win Mag chambering, and just clicks neatly into place. Also, don't know if you can see this from that angle, but this channel back here behind it, that's a bolt handle channel, because one of the big perks about the Keppeler Fritz is its modularity, and one of those is being able to switch the gun for right and left-handed users. Now, the most famous example of the Keppeler Fritz is probably in the Born Supremacy in 2004, where they have a Hollywooded version of it. And a Kepler won the gold medal for the Swedes in 2000, which means, yes, they are still making Kepler rifles. You go to their website today and you can of course find competition rifles, you can find hunting rifles, and even what is now the KSII sniper rifle right there on their website. Now, there's thought to be maybe 44 of the KS II ever made. So go find another one. That's 44 ever made. That's not how many exist today. That's not how many were imported into the States. Those are lower numbers even than the unicorn status of the WA 2000. But I don't want to keep harkening back to that, but the comparisons are pretty apparent. But what a great modern design. It's rare, it's innovative, it's precision, it's German precision, and of course has that heritage to just 2 outstanding arms makers in 20th century Germany. Let's take a look at the third and final sniper rifle. Well, the only non-bullpup of the video, this is the Mauser Model 93 SR Trials rifle. And before I get into this, I do want to talk about the disparity of information between American guns and German guns. For American trials, rifle trials like the Garand and what preceded and post-seeded and Marine Corps trials, we have so much information available to us. There's Hatcher's book on the Garand, there's Hatcher's notebook, there's any number of things. The 1911 trials are very, very documented in Meadows' book and Clausen's book. I don't have that kind of information about the German trials for the G22 Scharfschützengewehr, and I wish I did. So if you are a German audience member who is watching and you know where some of that information is, please send us an email. Or if you sprechen Sie English, please reach out, and I'd love to get my hands on a PDF or any sort of copy of that information that tells us more in-depth information about the 93 SR. Now, before we get into the limited history that we do have on the 93 SR, let's talk the numbers. Rock Island Auction Company has sold 1 ever before. It was in 2023, so just a handful of years ago, it sold for over $50,000. There's supposed to be approximately 120 made between 1993 and 1997. 7 are thought to be in civilian hands. 3 of those are chambered in 300 Win Mag. This is one of them. The one we sold in 2023 was also 300 Win Mag, so we've handled 2 out of the 3. That's a pretty good record. But also those production numbers also give it a greater or scarcer availability than the vaunted Walther WA 2000. I never thought I'd say that twice in one video, but here we are with the Mauser 93 SR. And it's a beautiful gun. This is made in '93 by Mauser for the G22 sniper rifle trials for the Scharfschützengewehr. And this is their no holds barred entry into that rifle competition, right? Like this is a pretty dramatic departure from what we think of as a Mauser bolt action rifle, right? Especially a company as dominant as Mauser that just had their rifles around the world, who basically defined what a modern bolt action was. Well, in the early '90s, they weren't doing so well financially, and so to keep the firm from selling, they designed the 93 SR. They enter it into the trials. Let's take a look at it from the front back because it's obviously another fascinating design. Very, very free floated barrel. I mean, as it should be, right? The only thing touching are the threads where it connects to the receiver. So very, very apparent and on display here on top of this green aluminum chassis, which also stretches the length. Said to be some fiberglass used back here as well. And these very textured slab sides held in by a large number of screws, just makes me think some of those could be removed for various accessories. I'm not sure why you would need a grip, 4 inches from the muzzle. And speaking of which, what a muzzle. Not your typical muzzle brake or flash hider, anything like that. It's just kind of out there on its own. It's also a polished finish. This is a matte finish all the way down, as is the receiver, as one would expect on a sniper rifle. Coming back, there's actually magazine release button on both sides. It doesn't seem very convenient, but boy, again, talk about the precision in this. This does drop free, box mag, detachable, and when you put that in, just the clicks of that Mauser really make you realize what a precision instrument this is. It's Mauser, so we have a 2-lug bolt, disassembly lever, back on here to drop the bolt. You'll notice in the front, no front of a trigger guard. It's just kind of assumed that this built-in handle is going to take care of that. Trigger is absolutely ridiculous. Before I forget, I should mention that this bipod does very easily come together and fold away flush into the bottom of the stock, and deployment is just as easy. Let's move rearward of that absolutely amazing trigger, and we can see some of the, customizable touches, the ergonomics, if you will, for where it interacts with the shooter. Cheek piece with a spring button here that pops up quite enthusiastically. And also the monopod on the bottom is spring loaded, and it too pops out very enthusiastically. You can bit of an awkward button, but you can use the rifle to push that right back in. A great gun by all accounts. Oh, and heavy as well. I didn't see the measurement for the weight online, so I went and weighed it myself. That is 17.25 pounds, or if you're in a country that was actually considering adopting that, that is 7.82 kilograms. Of course, it loses famously to the Accuracy International Arctic Warfare Magnum with a folding stock to become the new G22 Scharfschützengewehr. And it does see some adoption. There are some purchases. There's some West German police forces that buy some. There are some Dutch police forces that buy some as well, which is why you do see a handful in the Dutch National Military Museum. My friend Matthew Williamson, the curator over there, did send me some pictures, and it's fun to see the variations of the Dutch from the two that we have sold. Notably, there's a bracket that clips into these screw holes and goes over the barrel and then clips over here, but still gives you access to this sort of clip point there. He says maybe 2 or 3 that were Dutch police purchases have survived, and everything else was scrapped. So when we talked earlier about 120 ever made, almost all the ones that were sold for the Dutch police contract you can consider scrapped, and the ones that exist are likely the ones still in those museum walls. Ultimately, of course, even with the West German and the Dutch police contracts, it's not enough to save Mauser. They have to sell to Rheinmetall, and that's the end of the 93 SR project when they take over the business. Now, come full circle. when the Walther WA 2000 is the most available gun in a video, you know there's an outstanding selection of sniper rifles and DMRs through history in our May 8th through 10th premier firearms auction. You can find them from Europe, you can find them from America, you can find them from Germany. There's over 100 class 3 arms as well, and military arms from almost any conflict, century, and country that you can imagine that involve firearms. Come to the May 8th through 10th premier firearms auction. If you can't, come to the May 7th premiere day. We open to the public where you can put just supreme German rarity and precision in your hands. We hope to see you there. If we can't, head over to the website for more pictures, more information, and of course to place those bids. Until next time, keep your powder dry.